After winning its freedom from Great Britain, the United States of America was a small and fragile country. It was the year 1783, and the 13 original colonies were now states, clinging to the edge of a vast and unknown continent. The nation's leaders, men like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, had a grand vision. They dreamed of a republic where people could govern themselves, a place built on the ideals of liberty and opportunity. But this dream was not easy to achieve. The young country had very little money, a small army, and faced powerful European nations who watched it with suspicion, wondering if this bold experiment in democracy would even survive its earliest years. The first task was to build a strong foundation. The states needed to work together as one united country, not as 13 separate entities. This led to the creation of the Constitution, a remarkable document that laid out the rules for the new government. It established a system of checks and balances, ensuring no single part of the government could become too powerful. This stability was crucial. It gave people confidence in the future and created a predictable environment where business could begin to grow. People started to look westward, beyond the Appalachian Mountains, seeing endless land and the promise of a new life, a fresh start for themselves and their families. Many people from other countries saw America as a beacon of hope. They began to arrive on its shores, seeking escape from poverty, war, and persecution in their homelands. These early immigrants, from places like Ireland, Germany, and Scandinavia, brought with them their skills, their traditions, and their unwavering determination to succeed. They worked hard, building farms, starting small businesses, and helping to construct the towns and cities that were slowly beginning to dot the landscape. Their energy and resilience were the lifeblood of the new nation, contributing to its culture and its growing economy, weaving a rich tapestry of different backgrounds into a single American identity. Slowly but surely, the young nation began to find its footing. Farmers grew crops not just for their families, but to sell to others. Small workshops produced goods that were traded between the states. The ports of Boston, New York, and Philadelphia bustled with activity as ships carried American resources like timber and tobacco to other parts of the world. This early trade, though small by today's standards, was incredibly important. It brought much-needed money into the country and connected America to the global economy. Each successful harvest and every ship that returned to port was a small victory, a step forward on the long journey from a weak collection of former colonies to a nation with a growing sense of its own destiny. The 19th century was a time of incredible expansion for the United States. The country grew larger and larger, stretching all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. This happened through treaties, purchases, and exploration. The most famous of these was the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, when President Thomas Jefferson bought a huge piece of land from France, nearly doubling the size of the country overnight. This idea of manifest destiny, the belief that the nation was destined to expand across the continent, drove pioneers westward. They traveled in covered wagons along difficult trails, facing immense hardships to build new lives and establish new states, pushing the American frontier ever further. This expansion was powered not just by people, but by amazing new inventions that changed life forever. The steam engine led to the creation of steamboats that could travel up mighty rivers like the Mississippi, and railroads that could cross the vast plains. Suddenly it was easier to move people and goods across great distances. The telegraph, invented by Samuel Morse, allowed messages to be sent almost instantly from one city to another, connecting the sprawling country in a way that was previously unimaginable. These technologies were like the arteries and veins of the growing nation, carrying commerce and communication to every corner and fueling economic growth. With more land and new technology, the American economy boomed. The country was rich in natural resources like coal, iron, and oil. Factories sprang up in the cities of the Northeast, creating textiles, steel, and machinery. This period, known as the Industrial Revolution, transformed America from a nation of farmers into an industrial powerhouse. Millions of people, including a new wave of immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, flocked to the cities to work in these factories. While the work was often difficult and dangerous, it provided jobs and opportunities that were unavailable anywhere else, helping to build the nation's wealth and industrial might. This era of growth created immense fortunes for some, like Andrew Carnegie in steel and John D. Rockefeller in oil. Their businesses grew to be massive, influencing not just the American economy but the world's. They built vast networks of production and distribution, making the United States a leading producer of manufactured goods. While this concentration of wealth raised important questions about fairness and power, it also showcased the incredible potential of the American system. The country was becoming a major player on the world stage, not because of its army, but because of the sheer size and strength of its growing economy and its innovative spirit. At the beginning of the 20th century, the United States often preferred to stay out of the affairs of other countries. It focused on its own growth and development. However, this policy of isolationism was challenged by World War I, which began in Europe in 1914. For 3 years, America watched from the sidelines. But when German submarines began sinking ships carrying American passengers and goods, the nation could no longer remain neutral. In 1917, the United States entered the war on the side of the Allies, including Britain and France. This decision marked a major turning point, signaling that America was willing to take on a leadership role in global conflicts. The war effort required a massive mobilization of the entire country. American factories, which had been making cars and consumer goods, quickly switched to producing weapons, ammunition, and supplies for the soldiers. Millions of American men were sent to fight in Europe, and their contribution helped tip the balance of the war, leading to an Allied victory in 1918. When the war ended, the United States emerged much stronger than the European powers, whose lands and economies had been devastated by years of fighting. America, by contrast, had become a major creditor nation, lending money to its allies and solidifying its position as a global economic leader. Just a few decades later, the world was plunged into an even greater conflict, World War II. Once again, the United States initially tried to stay neutral. But the attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan on December 7, 1941, was a shocking event that united the country in its resolve to fight. The nation mobilized on a scale never seen before. Factories operated 24 hours a day, producing an astonishing number of planes, tanks, and ships. American industry became known as the arsenal of democracy, supplying not only its own military, but also its allies, like Great Britain and the Soviet Union, with the tools they needed to defeat the Axis powers. By the end of World War II in 1945, the old world order had been shattered. The great empires of Europe were exhausted and bankrupt. The United States, however, stood in a position of unmatched power. Its cities and factories were untouched by the destruction of war. Its economy was the largest in the world by a wide margin, and it was the only country that possessed the atomic bomb, a weapon of unimaginable power. The war had not weakened the United States, it had transformed it. The country had gone from being a reluctant participant in world affairs to the undisputed leader of the free world, ready to shape the post-war era. In the years following World War II, the United States fully embraced its new role as a global superpower. The world was divided into a tense standoff known as the Cold War, a rivalry between the democratic United States and the communist Soviet Union. This was not a direct fighting war between the two giants, but a struggle for influence that played out across the globe. America took the lead in forming alliances like NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, to protect Western Europe. It invested heavily in its military, developing advanced technology and maintaining a powerful presence around the world to contain the spread of communism and protect its interests. The nation's economic power was just as important as its military might. Through initiatives like the Marshall Plan, the United States provided billions of dollars to help rebuild the war-torn countries of Europe. This was not just an act of charity. It was a strategic move that created strong trading partners and fostered stable democratic governments. American companies like Coca-Cola, Ford, and IBM became global brands, spreading American products and culture everywhere. The US dollar became the world's primary reserve currency, meaning that international trade was often conducted in dollars, giving America immense influence over the global financial system. America's strength was also built on its continued leadership in science and technology. The Cold War rivalry sparked a space race with the Soviet Union, leading to one of humanity's greatest achievements, landing a man on the moon in 1969. This event showcased American ingenuity and determination to the entire world. In the decades that followed, American universities and companies were at the forefront of the digital revolution, inventing the microchip, the personal computer, and the internet. These innovations have fundamentally changed how people live, work, and communicate across the planet, further cementing America's role as a driver of global progress. Today, the United States is called a superpower because of a unique combination of factors built over more than 2 centuries. It possesses enormous military strength, the world's largest and most dynamic economy, and a powerful cultural influence that reaches every continent. Its journey from a small collection of colonies to its current status is a story of expansion, innovation, hard work, and the contributions of people from all over the world. While the nation continues to face new challenges, its history shows a remarkable capacity to adapt and lead, securing its place as a central figure on the world stage.